On today's video, we're going to be looking at the top 10 filthiest towns in Alabama. And let me tell you, finding a filthy town in Alabama is like finding a haystack in a needle. There are so many towns to pick from. Recently, YouTubers have done expeditions into the backwoods of Alabama. Bless their hearts, one YouTuber recently did a video in Atala, Alabama, and he thought it was one of the backwoods places in Alabama. But these YouTubers are just scratching the surface. There's also another YouTube video talking about the Bama Inn, but they did a video in Huntsville, which is one of the safest cities in Alabama. They would never do that video, let's say, at the Bama Inn in Montgomery. So there's a lot of YouTubers out there trying to expose the backwoods of Alabama, but they're just not familiar with the state. But on today's video, Jose is going to bring you the real top 10 trashiest places in Alabama. So next time one of these YouTubers thinks they're going to do a video on Alabama to expose what the backwoods life of Alabama is really like, they'll have a good blueprint of where they can go. This is part of our series of the worst white hoods or the white trash hoods of America. But on today's video for the title, we're going to call these the top 10 trashiest towns in Alabama. Because the folks in Alabama are very sensitive, and if we throw the word white in there, they're going to throw a hissy fit. But my subscribers know what time it is, and they know exactly what edge we're coming from. These are really the top 10 worst white hoods in Alabama. A lot of videos on the internet are showing you the worst parts of black Alabama. They don't show you white Alabama because it's too dangerous to do that. Even when I lived in Alabama, I avoided that topic because it's very dangerous. So let's find out what the top 10 worst white trash hoods are in the state of Alabama. And by the way, my wife is white and she's Irish and she absolutely loves these videos. So far, the audience receptions with our White Hood series has been incredible. Everybody loves it despite of race, but we are talking about Alabama here, so we can expect these folks to get their panties wound up in a knot and ruffle their feathers a little bit. So somebody please grab a pacifier and put it in the comment section, because these folks in Alabama are going to be very upset, because we're going to be talking about the one thing the people in Alabama are the absolute most self-conscious about. This is a sensitive topic for the people of Alabama, but it'll be quite enjoyable for the rest of us to watch. When it comes to being filthy, not even Mississippi can compete with Alabama. When you talk about the trashiest towns in America, they're all in Alabama. I dedicated an entire year of my life to exploring the trashiest, nastiest, and filthiest places in Alabama to bring you guys this video today. And I ended up with a tick in my beer and a bed bug in my ear, but dang it, I brought you guys the content that we need to gather today's compilation. And I guarantee you, you won't find another video on YouTube on this here subject that's more accurate than the video I'm about to bring you. The top 10 trashiest towns in Alabama down there. Number 1 is without a doubt Empire, Alabama. This town even has its own song called Shake a Bottle. If you don't know the reference, it's a reference to making meth. And that's possibly the only thing being made in Empire, Alabama. So when you talk about the filthiest towns in Alabama, no other town can be filthier, trashier than Empire, Alabama. I mean, just look at this particular property. What could be filthier than this? This trailer park community, located on the northern end of the Birmingham metropolitan area, is, as we've seen, one of the filthiest and trashiest white hoods in Alabama, if not the entire world. Filled with needle junkies, trailer parks, this really is the center of white trashery in Alabama. Up to 45% of mobile homes in this town have already exploded in meth lab experiments, and the remaining mobile homes are not in good shape. A local from Empire, Alabama is quoted for saying, "If heaven ain't filthy, I don't want to go." What a horrible thing to say. Number 2 is Titus, Alabama, located to the north of Montgomery. This rural community is quite literally full of inbred people. And I'm not saying that as a pun to a joke. People here really are inbred. These backwoods are filled with rebel flags, filth, garbage, and it's one of the most hostile places in Alabama for outsiders. If you're not familiar with the deep backwoods of the South, this particular part of Alabama is definitely a place to avoid, as the people here are on some other time. When you enter Coosa County, Titus, be careful. It's a whole different world. You have no idea what you got yourself into. Number 3 is the town of Elmore, also located on the north side of Montgomery. This little rural town is one of the most backwards places I have ever encountered. I'll tell you guys a story. We were working in Deatsville, an area known as Slap Out. It's called Slap Out because you can't slap in because everybody in the town's related. And we stopped in a little gas station corner store to get some gasoline or water bottles in Elmore, Alabama. And there was this 2 young teenagers that were walking together, and an old lady in a walker jumped out of a van at the gas station. She was their grandma. They looked very shocked and embarrassed, and she walked up to them and she said, "You two hanging out again? I told you already. I don't want to catch you two together. Your parents are already inbred. You can't do it again. Now y'all do a little second hand up, but don't do no poking. You see how your Uncle Billy came out." "Oh no, Grandma, we'd never do nothing like that. We're just coming back from Pilot down there." "Now y'all two don't give me that runaround. I done caught you in the laundry room." And I truly wish I was making this story up, but I'm not. This really happened to us out there in Elmore, Alabama. Now you drive around the main roads and it may not look that bad, but you get off into some of those side roads and some of those mobile homes in the back, and it's another world out there. You run into dudes like this guy right here. Notice he's got his badge on his chest to let you know he's a bigwig. The fact that almost everybody out here is related to each other in one way or another makes the dating pool really small. Hygiene and filth is actually a huge problem in this part of Alabama. People here are just filthy. The Elmore County Prison, one of the most notorious prisons in all of Alabama, is out here. And with this correctional facility, the people that work in the facility, which is most of the people living in the rural area of Elmore, the prison is full of bed bugs and ticks, and the families that work in those facilities just cannot keep the bed bugs out of their homes. In fact, I even found a Terminex truck, and you can see he's flaking off the Google truck. And I don't blame him. I would be mad too if I had to be an exterminator in this part of Alabama. I worked for a lot of people in this part of Alabama, and they did treat me good, but I'll tell you, you'll need a mask and protective gear to enter some of these houses because the living conditions here are beyond acceptable. If you don't know what these things are, this is called a burn barrel. Despite the fact that the county does offer a garbage can if you pay for it, a lot of people here just like to burn their garbage. On the weekends, driving through these parts of rural Alabama, the smell of burning diapers, tampons, and plastics, it's just overwhelming. The living conditions in this particular region of the state are some of the lowest that I have seen anywhere in America. And while they are good-hearted and helpful people, I have to admit that working in this part of Alabama was difficult, dealing with the bad hygiene, the lack of just hygienic behavior. It was completely abnormal how filthy this part of Alabama was. Number 4 is Marberry. If you've ever been on Interstate 65 just north of Montgomery, you'll notice that there's a giant rebel flag. That's the exit for this crappy little town, and it only gets worse as you get off the interstate. Never really met anybody in this town that seemed friendly, welcoming, or in any way or another made you feel comfortable around them. There's just a weird bunch of trashy people. You better be prepared to see some backwoods crap the moment you get off the interstate and start to explore around this area of Alabama. There's not much to do around here. The only park in the entire vicinity is the Confederate Memorial Park. And despite its menacing name, African American families do go to this park because, again, it's the only park in the entire area. You better put on some bug spray if you're going to get off and walk into one of the local corner stores or gas stations here, and the garbage man sure has his work cut out in this town. Number 5 is Clanton, Alabama, located between Montgomery and Birmingham, right off the highway. This little town has a lot of white trashery going on. I actually got to meet the town drunk in Clanton, and he told me he can drink and drive whenever he feels like it because he's got some incriminating photos of the county judge, and every time he gets locked up and they want to put him in jail, he reminds the judge, hey man, you don't really want to put me in jail. I got those photos of you doing some stuff. Your wife wouldn't want to see those photos, and neither would the rest of this town. Let me just say this guy drinks and drives a lot with absolute impunity. And that's just a brief view of some of the things that happen in Clanton, Alabama. The people here are friendly and good people, and they have no problem telling you all the town's secrets if you ask them about it. I personally don't have anything against the town of Clanton, but it did manage to find itself on today's list. There's not much to do in this town, and the youth tells me the only thing they find to do late at night is hang out by the Wendy's or the Jacks in their squatted pickup trucks. It's not hard to impress the women of Clanton. If you have a squatted Yukon on some Chrome 22s, you're pretty much going to get all the girls in town. Yeah, if you got a squatted truck on some snowflakes, you got it made in Clanton. Number 6 is Sylacauga. You don't have to be dirty just because you're poor, but it sure makes living in Sylacauga feel a lot more comfortable. Littering is like a pastime here, and collecting old junk cars and rebel flags a way of life. Located off of Highway 280 southeast of Birmingham, Alabama, this is one of the trashiest towns you're going to find in the entire state. So if you like ticks, burnt up meth labs right next to another burnt up meth lab, then perhaps consider buying yourself a property in Sylacauga. I hear there's a neighborhood called the Mill Village that's supposed to be a great place to live. This is the type of place where Joe Dirt would be happy living. Number 7 is Sealy, Alabama, located on Highway 431 right outside of Columbus, Georgia. This is one of the most backwoods towns you're ever going to see. The entire rural area surrounding this town, it's just trailer parks, old beat up trucks. Ain't it great to be living in the USA? There's actually an extension cord on the road here, on their main street. If it ain't country, you can kiss my truck. All my filthy friends settled down in this part of Alabama. I met a guy here who told me he should have died a long time ago because he's a dinosaur. I told him, you look like you should die from a bacterial sore. He told me his eyes were like that because his mom and his dad were cousins. And he's not afraid to put her name on the town water tower next to the Dollar General. Number 8 is Sheffield. Now there's a lot of garbage between Macon and Muscle Shoals, and the first pile of garbage isn't even that far outside of Muscle Shoals. Now the locals were trying to tell me something about a record studio that I should check out or something, but I don't know. I got out of this town as quickly as I could. The people look scary. They look like they hadn't bathed in weeks. Now there's a new law coming into Alabama for 2024. Alabama Governor Poison Ivy has given every resident of Alabama 5 waste management garbage cans. It's part of her initiative for a clean, united, neat, and tidy Alabama transformation. Every resident of Alabama will get paid $50 for collecting their 5 waste management garbage cans. But despite her efforts, it doesn't seem like the people of Alabama are actually going to clean up their state. In fact, the Evans family from Millbrook has already proclaimed that they're going to put their garbage cans in a fire pit and burn them and use the $50 to buy fireballs. The governor of Alabama is doing everything she can to encourage the people of Alabama to be cleaner, but bless their hearts, they just can't figure it out. Number 9 is Vernon, located just north of Montgomery. This town spent their entire town's budget creating buildings to protect Confederate memorial sites. A new state law allows towns in Alabama to decide whether they want to use their public funds to help improve their schools or to conserve Confederate sites. And so far, every single town has decided that they're going to use their funds to preserve Confederate sites. The town of Vernon used $15 million to put this metal canopy over this particular furnace that was used during the Civil War. Many skeptics say that this could have easily been pulled off with much less money, and it looked like the county officials used this structure as a massive money grab. We talked to one local resident who said as long as the money's being used for good things like conserving memorial sites for the Confederacy and not in schools, he's happy with the money being spent this way. Some critics, however, say that with $14 million, they could have bought everybody in town a new mobile home. Vernon, Alabama is definitely one of the trashiest towns in the entire state. Number 10 is 5 Points, Alabama, a town of only 141 people, and most of them are very trashy. No, wait, that's not it. Hold on, y'all. Number 10 is Billingsley, Alabama. Now, this town is a magnet for... That's not it either. But they get hit by tornadoes all the time and they got a Piggly Wiggly. What do you mean that's not it? Number 10 is Atala, Alabama. Nope, that's not it either. Okay. Number 10 is Little, Texas. No, that's not it either. Number 10 is Union Springs. Nope, that's not it either. Number 10 is Op, Alabama, located right on the southern tip of Alabama, close to Florida. It is the only town in southern Alabama that has made today's list. As we were able to see, most of the trash in Alabama is centered around the region of the state that's in the center. Centered around the center. And these are officially the top 10 trashiest towns in all of Alabama. What can we say about Op, Alabama that hasn't already been said about Charleston White? There's clearly something wrong with this town. It's as run down as anywhere in Alabama, but has as much people on drugs as anywhere in Florida. Alright guys, those are the top 10 trashiest towns in Alabama. Are there any towns in Alabama that you think could have easily made today's list? You know, one thing that most people driving through Op, Alabama will tell each other is let's get the crap out of here.